We're talking about how stored procedures are used for transactions in this video, and let's compare that to views and functions. Views and functions are used for selects. They provide data. They present data. But stored procedures are used for processing data. Now they can present data as well. I just showed you where it performed an operation, it presented the result. But in addition to that, and maybe even more often, it's used to process data into a table. So here's an example that we're looking at right here, the insert customer stored procedure, in which case I take the customer first name, the customer last name, and email, and I'm going to use it to insert into that customers table I made at the beginning of this module. So way up here, and you can see that I have an identity clause on the customer ID column, so that's automatically going to add values for me. So I skip over that and just insert values by using these parameters and an insert statement. So insert into customers, it's the same thing as I did right here, except that instead of having hard-coded values, I have my parameters. I also have included the begin transaction and commit transaction statements. You don't have to write out the entire word transaction. You can just use the first 4 letters. We've seen that pattern a few times now. And make the stored procedure. Now to use the stored procedure, I just execute it like we've seen before, and we pass in the values we want. Typically, these values would be captured in a web page's input text boxes, drop-down boxes, radio buttons, check boxes, whatever. So the web developer would actually write code to call the stored procedure, pass in the values that was captured from the user into the parameters. That's a very common way things are designed. Every time you make a database, you should make a view to select data from the table, the set of tables you have, so one view for each table, and also one insert, update, and delete stored procedure for each table in the database as well. You can make select stored procedures for your table. It's kind of optional. We'll talk about more fancier reporting stored procedures in the next module. Which case that would make more sense. But for just your basic transactions procs, you need one for insert, update, delete for each table that you make. Now, I have a update sproc to go along with my insert sproc. So it's going to be, I'll need the customer ID because I need to know which row I'm trying to change. And then I want to include first name, last name, and email because those are the possible columns that they could change. And I'll just say update the customers table, set the customer name to same as the parameter value being passed in, email address, and finally in the where clause, we go ahead and put the ID that determines which row I want to update. So just a standard update statement, and we just use parameters for the values. When I make that, I can execute the stored procedure. Pretty much the same as before. So update. But one thing I do, I have to have the ID column. And I think the only one we have is 1, so let me do a select statement. I'll use my view because I'm supposed to be using the view whenever we can. And I need a comma here. Okay, so right now we have Sue joins, and I want to actually change row 2, I guess. So I'll go ahead and put in Susan. And that will be my update. And I should be able to see my change. Delete stored procedure is going to be pretty much the same. I just go ahead and begin tran, commit tran, and I go ahead and put my deletion code in there, just using the ID column to indicate which row I want to delete. Doesn't take very long to create the stored procedures for the most part. The homework assignment on this module is to create a bunch of transactional stored procedures for the tables in a database. So you'll refer back to this as a kind of a starting point, and you'll have one insert, one update, and delete for each of those stored procedures. We're going to be adding on some more code to make this much more robust, but at a basic level, that's how you use stored procedures for transactions.